Eternia is not easily conquered. I've been set back too many times in my efforts to overrun it. Tell me about...
Welcome back to Retro Wednesday at the Tiberium Hangar. This is Mike, and today I want to talk to you about something I never hear anybody talk about, and that's the Masters of the Universe Vintage Fright Fighter. This vehicle, we're going to take a look at this, and pretty soon I'm going to be doing an update to the Eternia display, but I was going to add this guy to it. But let's talk about the Fright Fighter because I don't see anyone else talking about it. There's not much information about it, and it's a really cool vehicle on today's Retro Wednesday. Coming up. So there's very little information out there about this vehicle, but it is a cool vehicle. It's one of the ones that I've gone after, and so with that I did a little bit of research before picking one up, and I have to say it was later in the line, so it probably was produced way less than the other Masters of the Universe vehicles, and I also picked it up because I don't think Mattel's going to make it, which is kind of why I pick up anything vintage if Mattel is probably not going to make it. But this was later in the line, 1986, and with that, some of the coolest stuff with the most interesting features came out later in the line because it had to stay relevant. They had to come up with something to top what they've already made. That's why some of these later line items are really cool. This thing also came out against the Blaster Hawk. I think it's the other item that was out there. I don't have one of those, but I think that's kind of interesting and kind of cool. And I think I have a friend of mine that's got one he's going to sell me. But this is a really interesting vehicle. So let's go ahead and start off with what I like to call the lightning round of features. Starting off the lightning round of features, starting at the back, we have a satellite to pick up Netflix in outer space. There's also a rear gun, a laser gun, but it also acts as an additional receiver for the satellite. Comes with its own bat symbol because that is Skeletor's favorite show, but not Hordak. Dual vertical engine to help assist with vertical takeoffs and landings. Highly detailed electrical panels that are kind of fuzzy. Realistic dragonfly wing flap with a trigger activated front pincher grippers, 2 undermounted front laser cannons, realistic opening canopy functions, dual turbo propulsion thrusters. Before we go into detail on all of these features and just kind of talk a little bit more about this, I do want to say it's big. It's bigger than I thought it would be. I don't know why I thought it'd be any smaller because it barely fits the figure in the cockpit. But looking at this, I thought this was huge. But this thing sort of blows it away. So let's look at something that's quite similar to this. Even the Talon Fighter, which I kind of felt like this would be about the size of Talon Fighter, this thing blows that out of the water size-wise because of the width of the wings and the length of this long dragonfly-looking item here. It is really cool, really big, really massive. A little bit hard to display, though, because of the size. This actually fits classic figures, and the other one doesn't actually fit classic figures. Kind of crazy. You're nothing but a faker. Alright, so let's talk about this thing, and let's go into each one of these features that it has. And so with that, I want to start at the front. Now we have these under-mounted guns, and I think that the guns look a little bit better up top, but everything shows it to be mounted underneath. And there's a couple of problems and key issues with this. As you can see on this example right here, there's already stress marks on this, and a lot of examples I see have this piece broken off. And so I didn't actually know about that when I was looking to pick up some guns to complete this thing. Somebody had made 3D printed ones and pointed out that the way he made his 3D printed ones, they just clip together and so that doesn't break. I thought that was really cool that he pointed that out, so I was real careful with that as a breakage point. And so with that, I do want to show kind of what they would look like if you mounted them on top, which I think actually looks better. So this is how it looks like if you mount them on top. No, I was not going to disconnect those and risk breaking them, so just pull out another one here. So with that, this is the best way, in my opinion, to do it like this, but this is the way they show it on the box, and the art, and all that kind of stuff, so it's proper to be under. So looking at this canopy, we're going to open this canopy up, and what you're going to see is that inside here, we do have some stickers. There's some little bit of detail going on inside, which is kind of cool. There is detail on this and this and this, control panels and stuff like that. But there's also stickers that look kind of cool. And it's really hard to see this other sticker over here, but it kind of looks like he's got sort of a monitor on it, kind of something you'd see in an airplane. So that does look kind of cool. Now I did stick an Origins figure in there, so let's see what it looks like with just a standard vintage He-Man figure, and it just lays in absolutely perfect. So that is great. Those of you with Masterverse figures, though, the thing that they're doing with all of the Origins vehicles is making sure you can fit a Masterverse figure in there. Let me just grab a random one I've just recently picked up, and Masterverse is way too big. And so is the Classics. I mean, I wonder if I could spend more time messing with it, if I might be able to cram it in there, but it doesn't just fit right away. So it's really only for Origins, and barely fits Origins. I had to spend some time mixing him around to get him in there, because Origins figures are actually technically a little bit taller. They just don't have the squatty pose going. So Origins or original vintage. I'm going to demonstrate a little bit better on this gripping claw action here. He can grip someone, and the cool thing is the gripping, but the other cool thing is you can just drop them off somewhere, and that is kind of the fun play feature. So it's a dual play feature, because holding the handle, you can grip both the claw and the wing flapping part, which works really well. So I've got to say that this all does work really well, and it's very satisfying. I mean, to a kid playing, it'd be a lot of fun, but as an adult and seeing that these things still work very well overall over all these years means it was designed really well by Mattel. And there's a lot of things Mattel's designed very well that still works today. So looking at the flapping wing action a little bit more, I think it's the biggest gimmick in this toy, and it's kind of fun, but it really does create quite an interesting scene when you do this. This is kind of cool, but does it remind you of something? I definitely wanted to keep those from kind of bumping each other, but I gotta say that this is very similar kind of a gameplay, toy play, role play as what was going on with the Sectars. I think the Sectars came out around that time frame too. So with that, pretty cool that they made it very similar in concept for how it operates, or maybe I'm just reading too much into it. Looking at the bottom, we have the thrusters. It's just one solid silver grayish piece connected there, and that looks kind of good, and it does its thing. But it really does add a lot of stability to this, so that you can just kind of set it down and it holds itself up. It's a strange design, and this holds it together, and it looks really cool and striking when you have these stickers on it. It looks really good. So with all of that, it's an interesting touch, and it does kind of have that whole vibe, what you get with a little bit of mystical magic and a little bit of technology that we always see with the Master of the Universe stuff. One of the things about this satellite and this gun is they rotate independently, they kind of plug in, but it always shows it facing forward. I'm sure you could unplug them and face them backwards if that was something that you like. Be very careful, because this silver plastic likes to break, and so if you get them unbroken, then be careful not to break them. That's my advice. But with that, when they kind of go opposite directions, they look like they're doing two different things, but they look like they turn into one unit when they're facing the same direction, which I think is kind of cool, and it's kind of interesting. It's not something that really I knew was a thing until I plugged it all together, and I was like, hey, that kind of looks like one big unit that splits into two, and that's kind of cool. It's kind of interesting. So I don't know if they engineered it that way, or they were like, let's just make sure we have enough clearance for this piece to go around, but either way, I think it looks pretty cool on there. And then below it, I don't know what the significance of this bat symbol is. That the Horde symbol? Maybe it's the Horde symbol. I'm not sure. I don't know, but I'll be finding out eventually. Top-down view of this thing, when I first put it together, I think I put it together wrong, because the wings kept touching each other, and then you can kind of see that they are four completely different wings. So you can't just piece yourself together and just go, hey, I'm just going to go ahead and get, four random wings, put them on there, it's going to work. You have to have like A, B, C, and D, or 1, 2, 3, and 4, or whatever. But they do have some interesting stickers that highlight it and bring a little bit more pizzazz to it and all that kind of stuff. And then also from the front, this whole, pretty much this top canopy is glass, it is plastic, and then a blue overlay of blue solid plastic that is glued to it or just clipped to it. And then we have the engines that I did talk about in the lightning round. So pretty cool aesthetic overall. So what are my final thoughts on this Fright Fighter vehicle? I think it is one of the coolest vehicles that's come out of Masters of the Universe. I kind of really like the color purple, and anything made out of purple, to me, it just kind of draws my eye. I do like the color breakups in it, from the purple, the blue, the black, the red, and all that kind of stuff. And they did know how to design a vehicle to look really cool. The dragonfly design is interesting. It does make it a bit fragile in a few points, such as where this connects right here, and the wings themselves, and of course all of the silver pieces can make it a little bit fragile, but it's something I don't think Mattel's ever going to make again. I think that if you want one, you need to get it from the vintage era, and the reason I think that is because not enough people had this back in the day, or associated with it, or care about it enough to make a massive retail release at 130,000 units. And with that, if you want one of these, you're going to have to chase it down on the vintage market. The good thing is that there are plenty of them out there. The bad thing is they've gotten a little bit pricey over the years, so I say take your time and kind of piece one together. I got one that wasn't complete. I was happy with the price and just found the parts over time, and I'm probably going to be going after a few more sort of rare Masters of the Universe items that I don't think Mattel is going to make. But anyway, let me know in the comments below what you think. Did you have one of these back in the day? Do you have one of these now? Or is this the first time you're ever hearing about the Fright Fighter from Masters of the Universe? Leave a comment in the comments below. Like and subscribe. Teddy Hanger out.
Looks like we've got company.
Here's a little game I call Powerball.